Gonzaga. They're the 2 seed if they win or if USF loses. Either one. And obviously they can take care of both of those things on Thursday when USF hosts Gonzaga at Chase Center. And USF hosting Gonzaga in the Warriors building is something that we talked a lot about before the year. And obviously the question was, is this going to hurt or help USF? And we're about to find out. I still don't know how much of a benefit it's going to be in that building as opposed to being on the hilltop. The initial thought still is it's like you don't want to lose that intimacy. You don't want to lose that vibe of being in your home building. Because it's also a scenario where it's your players will have to also get used to playing in that building again. And yes, they played in there earlier this year. They played Minnesota. They beat Minnesota in that building, shot really well in that Minnesota game. So it's not like they're unfamiliar with the rims, unfamiliar with the backdrop, don't know how to play in that building, because clearly they do. But it's how much of a home court advantage do you lose by moving there and playing Gonzaga on what will still count as a home game for USF, but what really is a neutral site game. And we know that USF in the games like this could use every advantage it possibly can get, because they have had so many near misses this season. They lost by 5 at Boise State. They lost by 4 to Grand Canyon. Lost by 1 to Utah State. Lost by 5 at Gonzaga. Lost by 4 at St. Mary's. They have been this close multiple times this year, and if you flipped even 2 of those around, we might be talking about this USF team being squarely on the bubble right there with Gonzaga. And the game that these two played just a few weeks ago, USF had a lead at the half. They won the rebounding battle. They were +9 in that category, which was always a key against the Bulldogs to be able to kind of do that. But they also but toward the end of the game, they lost control of it there throughout the second half. They were down by 13 at one point. But then they really executed well late in that contest. They extended the game out. They were able to chip away. They got within 1 possession multiple times with less than 30 seconds left. USF did a lot of things well. Marcus Williams came alive late. We saw some really nice performances from Isaiah Hawthorne in that one. So we saw glimpses of what they are capable of doing against Gonzaga. We saw glimpses of it just the other night in Moraga of what they're capable of doing. Marcus Williams played a great game the other night in Moraga. But what this team needs to be able to break through and get over the hump is, who has been missing offensively in these games? Jonathan Mobo. He is the guy that needs to get involved early, and he needs to be involved often. There was too many times in that game against Gonzaga where he looked timid, where he looked to pass out instead of just going straight up and attacking the basket like we've seen him do all year long. And we saw similarly that against St. Mary's as well. And his shooting percentages they're still good in those ball games. His rebounding numbers have still been pretty good in those ball games, but the point total hasn't been there like we have seen throughout the rest of the season against every other team not named Gonzaga, not named St. Mary's. That's a key. He needs to be more active. He needs to be a better part of that offense if they're going to pull this off. Another key, and I mentioned a little bit, is the play of Marcus Williams is critical. He played final total score against Gonzaga, like he ended up having a pretty good night, but it came too late. They need him from the jump. They need him early on. They need someone else to also come along for the ride. But Marcus Williams is one of the keys. You need that leadership from your senior to be able to kind of really push them through. Uh, Best you can, keep Graham Ike away from the basket. And I feel like that is way easier said than done. He has been an absolute monster in WCC play. He's averaging 17 points a game. He's averaging nearly 7.5 rebounds. He's arguably the WCC player of the year since the calendar has flipped to January. And that those are just a few things that USF really needs to actually look at and really focus on if they're going to have a shot against this Zag team. For Gonzaga in this one, first things first is defend the three, because USF does rely still heavily on that shot. And they have so many shooters that you have to just be able to chase them off and force them inside. Gonzaga's strength has been its rebounding, has been its interior defense. Even if they don't have the shot blocker or anything like that, but they are able to defend well without fouling. They are able to clean up on the glass, force guys toward Graham Ike, force guys toward Anton Watson. And that to me is one of the things that can really help Gonzaga in this contest. The other one is keeping Nolan Hickman hot. I know Nolan Hickman is maybe one of the more maligned players in the entire WCC, maybe on the entire West Coast, because of what we have seen him be or not be over the last couple of years. And he is starting to look the part. He is starting to look like the shooting guard that everyone thought he would be. Over the last 6 games, he's been averaging 17 points a game. He's shooting 55% from three. He's shooting 46% from three overall in WCC play, and he is the WCC's leader in that category. Nolan Hickman has just been stepping up his game night in and night out over the last month or so. And when he's like that, he makes this squad so much tougher to game plan for. It really does feel like the days of let Nolan Hickman shoot a clutch 3 and let him miss is over. And for Gonzaga, I mean, this is an easy one. It's keep feeding the beast. Keep feeding Graham Ike, because he's averaging nearly 23 a game over his last 3 games. He's shooting 64% from the field in WCC play. This Gonzaga team is playing really, really well. They still are playing with purpose. Keep in mind that this is a team that still is on the bubble, and you don't know how many bid stealers there are going to be come Selection Sunday. So you have to do everything you possibly can to bolster that resume. And this is going to be a quad 1 for for Gonzaga. They are going to have another quad 1 on Saturday against St. Mary's. So they get 2 opportunities to pick up quad 1 victories this last week going into Vegas. And if they do somehow pull these both off, either one or the other, it feels like if they're able to get them both, they even go into Vegas, I feel like much more comfortable about their situation and where they are going to be sitting come Selection Sunday. And it may not matter what they do in Vegas. Obviously, it'd be great for them if they are able to pick up one more victory, get to a title game, and then you really start to feel much more comfortable